The distress signal in the year 2235, Earth was a world of incredible technology and peace. The United Earth Federation, UEF, managed everything with a calm hand, guiding humanity through a time of prosperity. But as humanity explored further into the stars, they often encountered the unknown. It was during one such quiet day that a strange signal reached Earth. In the heart of UEF's command center, a series of beeps echoed through the control room. The signal was faint but unmistakable, coming from deep space. The signal's origin was an uncharted part of the galaxy, and it seemed to be a distress call. Admiral Lisa Grant, a seasoned leader with a reputation for handling the toughest situations, was the first to notice. Her eyes narrowed as she read the decoded message on her screen. "We have a problem," she said to her team, her voice steady. "This is no ordinary signal." Dr. Arjun Patel, a brilliant scientist known for his work on alien technology, stepped closer. "Can we be sure it's a distress call?" he asked, studying the data. His fingers danced over the keyboard, pulling up more information. The signal was weak but persistent. It was clear that someone or something was trying to reach out for help. The signal's source was identified as coming from a fleet of alien ships. They were known as the Xantari, a race with advanced technology but a history of conflict with humanity. The Xantari had once been powerful enemies, and their presence alone stirred unease. The UEF had never fully trusted them, and for good reason. Admiral Grant turned to her team. "What's the situation with these Xantari?" Dr. Patel answered. "The Xantari are known for their advanced technology. If they're sending out a distress signal, it means they're in serious trouble. But why reach out to us?" The room buzzed with activity as the UEF officials debated their next steps. Some argued it was a trap. "We know their history," said Colonel James Harper, a military strategist with years of experience. "They could be trying to lure us into a trap." Others felt differently. "We can't ignore a distress call," said Dr. Patel. "If they're in danger, we have a moral obligation to help." Admiral Grant listened carefully to both sides. She knew that whatever decision they made, it could have far-reaching consequences. "Prepare a preliminary report on the signal," she ordered. "We need to understand more about their situation before we decide." Hours turned into days as the UEF worked tirelessly to gather more information. The signal was becoming clearer, revealing that the Xantari fleet was stranded in a remote and hazardous part of space. They were running out of essential resources, and their situation was becoming desperate. The distress signal itself was a cry for help, a plea for any assistance from nearby civilizations. But why had the Xantari, known for their pride and hostility, chosen to contact humanity? This was a question that needed answering before any action could be taken. Admiral Grant convened a meeting with her senior officers. The tension was palpable as they discussed their options. "We have to consider the risks," she said. "The Xantari have a history of aggression. If we go, we might be walking into a trap. But if we don't, they could perish out there." Dr. Patel spoke up. "We have to weigh our options carefully. The signal indicates that they're not just asking for help, they're begging for it. Their situation must be dire." The debate continued, but Admiral Grant's mind was made up. "We're going to send a team to investigate," she declared. "If the Xantari are truly in trouble, it's our responsibility to offer assistance. We'll take all necessary precautions." Preparations began immediately. The UEF assembled a team of experts and officers, led by Admiral Grant herself. The flagship, the Eclipse, was readied for the mission. It was equipped with the latest technology and weaponry, prepared for both diplomacy and defense. As the team prepared to leave, Dr. Patel reviewed the data one last time. "We're heading into unknown territory," he said, looking at the star maps. "There's no telling what we'll find out there." Admiral Grant nodded. "We're going to do this right. We'll be cautious and prepared for anything." With the Eclipse ready, the crew set off towards the uncharted region of space. The journey would be long and fraught with potential danger, but the crew was determined to find out the truth behind the mysterious distress signal. As they traveled through the void of space, the crew reflected on the gravity of their mission. They were venturing into a part of the galaxy that was both mysterious and potentially hostile. The Xantari had been enemies before, and now they were asking for help. It was a situation that demanded careful handling. The Eclipse glided through the stars, its crew focused and vigilant. The journey was just beginning, and the crew knew that what awaited them could change everything. They were about to confront not just an alien fleet, but the very idea of what it meant to be allies with former enemies. The distress signal had set them on this path, and now they were committed to discovering the truth. As they approached the uncharted region, the crew braced themselves for whatever lay ahead, ready to face the challenges and uncertainties of their mission. The journey begins. The Eclipse was ready. The flagship of the United Earth Federation stood tall in the space dock, its sleek, powerful frame gleaming under the lights. Inside, the crew bustled with activity as they prepared for their crucial mission. Admiral Lisa Grant walked through the ship's corridors, her footsteps echoing softly. She was a calm and determined leader, accustomed to handling the most difficult situations. Admiral Grant approached the control room where Dr. Arjun Patel was already deep in work. Patel, a renowned expert in alien technology, was focused on the data streams coming from the Zantari distress signal. He looked up as she entered. "Everything set, Dr. Patel?" Admiral Grant asked. Dr. Patel nodded. "We've gathered all the information we can. The signal is clearer now, but it still comes from a very hazardous part of space. We'll need to be extremely careful." Admiral Grant gave a nod of approval. "Good. Let's make sure our mission goes smoothly." The crew was a mix of seasoned officers and specialists. Lieutenant Mia Torres, the ship's navigator, was busy mapping out the route. Her job was crucial. The path to the Zantari's location was through uncharted territory, filled with potential dangers. Lieutenant Torres glanced up as Admiral Grant approached her station. "Admiral, we're ready to depart. I've plotted the course, but it's a tricky route. We'll need to stay alert for any unexpected obstacles." Admiral Grant placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "I trust your expertise, Lieutenant. Keep us on track." The final preparations were completed, and soon the Eclipse was set to leave. The crew assembled in the main hall for the departure briefing. Admiral Grant stood at the front, her face serious but calm. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, "we are about to embark on a mission to investigate a distress signal from the Zantari fleet. This could be dangerous, and we must be ready for anything. Our goal is to understand their situation and, if possible, offer assistance." The crew members nodded, their expressions reflecting a mix of excitement and nervousness. They were about to enter a region of space few had ventured into, and none knew what awaited them. The Eclipse roared to life as its engines powered up. The massive ship slowly left the space dock, maneuvering smoothly into the vastness of space. The crew watched as Earth grew smaller behind them, a distant blue marble in the dark expanse. As the ship traveled, the crew settled into their routines. Dr. Patel continued to analyze the signal, working with a team of scientists to understand more about the Zantari's technology. His findings were crucial for the mission, but the data was often incomplete and challenging to interpret. Admiral Grant held regular briefings with her senior officers. "We need to stay focused," she said. "The Zantari are known for their advanced technology, but also for their unpredictability. We must be prepared for both technological and diplomatic challenges." In the ship's engineering bay, Chief Engineer Max Keller and his team checked the systems and made final adjustments. The Eclipse was equipped with the latest technology, but even the most advanced systems required constant monitoring and maintenance. "Everything's in top shape," Keller reported, "but we'll need to keep a close eye on the engines. The stress of this journey could cause unexpected issues." As the ship approached the uncharted region, the crew's excitement grew. The unknown stretched out before them, filled with possibilities and dangers. They had trained for this, but the reality of the mission was starting to set in. One evening, Lieutenant Torres and Dr. Patel stood on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. The vastness of space was both awe-inspiring and daunting. "It's hard to believe we're heading into that," Torres said, pointing to the dark, uncharted area on the star maps. "It's like stepping into the unknown." Dr. Patel nodded. "The signal we're following is faint but persistent. It's a sign that the Zantari need help urgently. We must stay focused and ready for anything." The Eclipse continued its journey, moving cautiously through the uncharted region. The ship's sensors were on high alert, scanning for any signs of danger. The crew remained vigilant, their eyes constantly monitoring the ship's systems and surroundings. Days passed as the Eclipse navigated through asteroid fields and gravitational anomalies. The crew worked together seamlessly, their training and experience proving invaluable. Admiral Grant knew that the success of the mission depended on their ability to work as a team and adapt to any challenges they faced. As they neared the coordinates of the distress signal, the tension on board was palpable. The crew could sense the importance of their mission and the potential dangers ahead. They had come a long way, but the most challenging part was yet to come. Dr. Patel and his team finally made a breakthrough in interpreting the signal. "We've got a clearer picture now," Patel announced. "The Zantari fleet is in a critical state. They're running low on power and life support systems. They need help immediately." Admiral Grant nodded, her face set with determination. "Prepare for first contact protocols. We'll need to approach carefully and be ready for any situation." The Eclipse adjusted its course, heading towards the Zantari fleet's last known location. The crew held their breath as the ship approached the edge of the hazardous space. They knew that what awaited them could change everything. The journey had been long and filled with challenges, but the crew of the Eclipse was ready. They were about to encounter the Zantari, and their actions could have far-reaching consequences. With their mission nearing its crucial phase, the crew braced themselves for the unknown challenges that lay ahead. Encounter in the void, the Eclipse glided through the dark expanse of space, its powerful engines humming softly. The crew had been traveling for days, navigating through the treacherous and uncharted region. As they approached the coordinates of the distress signal, the mood on board was tense, but hopeful. Everyone knew they were about to face a critical moment. Admiral Lisa Grant stood on the bridge, her eyes focused on the vast void outside. She could see nothing but stars and darkness, a stark contrast to the bustling activity inside the ship. The crew's faces were lit by the soft glow of their screens, their expressions a mix of anticipation and concern. Lieutenant Mia Torres, the ship's navigator, worked furiously at her console. "We're getting close, Admiral," she said, her voice steady despite the tension. "I'm picking up faint energy signatures. They're consistent with the distress signal." Admiral Grant nodded. "Keep us on course, Lieutenant. We need to make sure we don't miss them." Dr. Arjun Patel, the expert on alien technology, sat at his station, his eyes glued to the data streaming in. "The energy levels are fluctuating," he reported. "It looks like their power systems are failing. We should be able to locate them soon." The crew worked in silent harmony as the Eclipse approached the source of the signal. The darkness outside seemed to press in, and the crew's anticipation grew. They were about to encounter the Zantari fleet for the first time. "Admiral, we're detecting several ship signatures," Torres said, her fingers flying over the controls. "They're clustered together, and they're not moving." Dr. Patel adjusted his equipment. "It's possible that they're immobilized. Their life support systems might be malfunctioning." The tension in the bridge was palpable. Admiral Grant took a deep breath and gave the order. "Prepare for first contact protocols. We're going to make visual contact." The Eclipse's powerful lights pierced the darkness, revealing a sight that none of the crew had ever expected. Before them floated a fleet of alien ships, their sleek designs battered and worn. The ships were drifting, their once advanced technology now showing signs of severe damage. The Zantari fleet was a magnificent sight, even in its current state. The ships were built for speed and power, but now they looked like ghosts of their former selves. Broken panels and flickering lights told the story of their desperate situation. As the Eclipse approached, a signal came through on their communications system. It was a garbled message, barely audible. Dr. Patel worked quickly to decode it. "It's coming from their flagship. They're asking for help." Admiral Grant's face was set with determination. "Open a channel. Let's see if we can establish communication." The screen flickered, and a Zantari officer appeared. His face was stern with a mix of frustration and hope in his eyes. "This is Commander Zara of the Zantari fleet. We are in dire need of assistance. Our systems are failing, and our life support is critically low." Admiral Grant spoke calmly. "Commander Zara, I'm Admiral Lisa Grant of the United Earth Federation. We received your distress signal and have come to help. Can you tell us more about the situation?" Commander Zara looked relieved but wary. "We were caught in a gravitational anomaly that damaged our power systems. We've been unable to repair them due to lack of resources. We need immediate assistance or we will not survive." Dr. Patel began analyzing the data from the Xantari ships. Their systems are more advanced than we thought, he said. We'll need to adapt our approach to assist with their repairs. Admiral Grant turned to her crew. Prepare to dock with the Xantari flagship. We need to provide aid and assess their needs. The Eclipse maneuvered carefully and attached itself to the Xantari flagship. The crew prepared for the docking operation, ensuring that everything was in place for a smooth transition. As the airlock opened, Admiral Grant and a team of engineers, led by Chief Engineer Max Keller, stepped onto the Xantari ship. The interior was dimly lit, with flickering lights and broken machinery. The atmosphere was tense, but the crew remained focused. Commander Zara met them at the docking bay. Welcome aboard. We are grateful for your assistance. Our main power core is damaged, and our life support systems are failing. Chief Engineer Keller examined the power core. We'll need to make some quick repairs to stabilize your systems. Do you have any spare parts or tools we can use? Zara nodded. We have limited resources, but we'll provide everything we can. The team quickly set to work, repairing the damaged power core and life support systems. The atmosphere on the Xantari ship was a mix of hope and anxiety. The crew worked together, focusing on getting the systems back online. As the repairs progressed, the Xantari crew watched with a mix of gratitude and skepticism. They were not used to relying on others, especially not humans. Yet the efforts of the Eclipse crew were starting to make a difference. Hours passed, and the power core hummed back to life. The lights on the Xantari ship grew brighter, and the life support system stabilized. Commander Zara expressed her thanks. You've done more than we could have hoped for. We are in your debt. Admiral Grant nodded. We're here to help. It's what we do. Now let's make sure your fleet is fully operational and ready to continue its journey. The crew of the Eclipse worked alongside the Xantari, ensuring that all systems were functioning properly. The collaboration was a step towards building trust between the two species. As the repairs were completed, the Xantari ships slowly came back to life. The fleet's once dimmed lights now shone brightly, and the ships were ready to move. The Eclipse crew had accomplished their mission, but they knew that their journey was far from over. With the Xantari fleet now operational, Admiral Grant and her crew prepared to say goodbye. The encounter had been a challenging one, but it marked the beginning of a new chapter in the relationship between humanity and the Xantari. The Eclipse turned back towards its course, leaving the Xantari fleet to continue its journey. The crew felt a sense of accomplishment and relief, knowing they had made a difference. As they left the uncharted region behind, they looked forward to the future, hopeful for what lay ahead. The alliance forms, the Xantari flagship, now stabilized and fully operational, drifted alongside the Eclipse. The crew of the Eclipse had successfully repaired the damaged systems, but their work was far from over. The next challenge was to build a strong working relationship with their once-feared allies. Admiral Lisa Grant stood in the main conference room of the Xantari flagship, preparing for a crucial meeting. The room was dimly lit, with a large table at the center and holographic displays projected around them. Commander Zara was already present, waiting for her. Commander Zara, Admiral Grant began as she entered. Thank you for meeting with us. We've managed to get your systems back online, but there's more we need to discuss. Zara nodded, her expression serious. Yes, Admiral. We are grateful for your assistance, but we need to discuss how we move forward from here. Dr. Arjun Patel, the UEF's alien technology expert, joined the meeting. He brought with him a tablet showing detailed data on the Xantari systems. We've analyzed your technology and found that there are still some issues that need addressing. We'd like to help you with further repairs and upgrades. Zara's eyes widened slightly. That would be appreciated. However, trust is a difficult thing for us. The history between our peoples has not been easy. Admiral Grant took a deep breath. We understand that. We're here to change that. Our goal is to help you, and we hope to build a stronger relationship in the process. We need to work together, and that requires trust on both sides. The discussion continued, with Admiral Grant and Commander Zara talking about the terms of cooperation. The Xantari were wary but intrigued by the offer. They had never expected such help from the humans they once considered enemies. Meanwhile, the crew of the Eclipse and the Xantari engineers worked side by side, repairing and upgrading the fleet systems. The atmosphere was tense but cooperative. Both sides were learning from each other, and there were moments of shared laughter and frustration. Chief Engineer Max Keller worked closely with Zantari engineer Krell. Krell was skeptical at first, but began to appreciate Keller's expertise. "You have a way with these systems," Krell admitted. "I can see why your people are so confident in their technology." Keller smiled. "Thanks, Krell. It's the teamwork that makes it work. We're all here to solve the same problems." As the repairs continued, Dr. Patel and his team set up a joint research station to study the Zantari technology in more detail. They discovered that the Zantari had some advanced features that could benefit both sides. During one of their sessions, Dr. Patel said, "We found some interesting things in your technology. If we combine our knowledge, we could create new systems that work even better." Zara, observing the collaboration, began to see the potential benefits. Perhaps this partnership could be more than just a temporary fix. It could lead to something lasting. The turning point came when Admiral Grant proposed a formal alliance. She and Zara stood in front of their respective crews, ready to make a significant announcement. "We've worked hard to get to this point," Admiral Grant began. "Our mission was to help those in need, and in doing so, we've learned a lot about each other. I propose that we formalize our cooperation into an alliance. Together, we can face future challenges and explore new opportunities." Commander Zara looked around at the assembled crews. An alliance with the United Earth Federation would be unprecedented. "Our history has been filled with conflict, but I believe we have a chance to build a new future. If we can work together, perhaps we can create a lasting peace." The crew members of both ships watched closely, their expressions a mix of hope and apprehension. The idea of an alliance was new and uncertain, but the events of the past few days had shown them that cooperation was possible. Admiral Grant extended her hand to Zara. "Let's take this step forward together. We'll start by sharing technology and resources. We can work on joint missions and support each other as allies." Zara hesitated for a moment, but then shook Admiral Grant's hand. "Agreed. Let this be the beginning of a new chapter for both our peoples." The formal agreement was made, and the crews of the Eclipse and the Zantari flagship celebrated the new alliance. There were shared meals, exchanged stories, and even some friendly competitions. The atmosphere was positive, and the barriers between the two groups began to dissolve. As the days passed, the newly formed alliance began to show results. The Zantari fleet was more efficient and better equipped thanks to the combined efforts of the two teams. Joint training sessions and collaborative projects became the norm, and trust grew stronger with each passing day. Admiral Grant and Commander Zara worked closely to plan future missions and strategies. Their partnership was still young, but the potential was clear. They were determined to make their alliance a success and to prove that even the deepest conflicts could be resolved through cooperation. The Eclipse and the Zantari fleet prepared to continue their respective journeys, now as allies rather than adversaries. The alliance was a symbol of hope and a new beginning for both species. The road ahead was uncertain, but the path had been set, and the future looked brighter than it had in a long time. As the Eclipse departed, Admiral Grant and Commander Zara stood on the bridge of the Zantari flagship, looking out at the stars. They knew that their alliance would be tested, but they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, together. The saboteurs' plot, the alliance between the United Earth Federation and the Zantari, was still fresh, but it had already brought promising changes. The Eclipse and the Zantari fleet were working together smoothly, conducting joint missions and sharing technology. But beneath the surface of this new partnership, trouble was brewing. In the dimly lit corridors of the Zantari flagship, a shadowy figure moved stealthily. This figure was Krell, the Zantari engineer who had worked closely with Chief Engineer Max Keller. He had always seemed reliable, but he harbored a secret, a plan to sabotage the alliance. Krell had been frustrated by the rapid pace of the alliance. He believed that the Zantari should remain independent and not rely on their human counterparts. To him, the alliance was a mistake, and he was determined to prove that the humans could not be trusted. Late one night, while most of the crew was asleep, Krell sneaked into the engine room of the Xantari flagship. His eyes glinted with determination as he approached the main power core. He had come prepared, carrying a small toolkit and several devices that he had smuggled on board. Krell worked quickly, his hands moving deftly as he set up a small device near the power core. It was a sabotage device, designed to disrupt the core's functions and cause a critical failure. His plan was to create a crisis that would force the Xantari to sever ties with the UEF and push them back into isolation. As he finished his work, Krell wiped his hands and slipped away into the shadows. He was careful to leave no trace of his presence. The sabotage device was now in place, and the countdown had begun. Meanwhile, on the Eclipse, Admiral Lisa Grant and Dr. Arjun Patel were preparing for their next mission. They were discussing strategies in the conference room when Lieutenant Mia Torres burst in, her face pale with concern. "Admiral, we've detected unusual energy readings from the Xantari flagship," Torres reported. "It looks like there might be a problem with their power core." Admiral Grant's eyes narrowed. "We need to investigate immediately. If there's a problem with their power core, it could endanger both our ships." Dr. Patel joined Admiral Grant and Torres as they boarded a shuttle to the Xantari flagship. The journey was tense, with each member of the team worried about what they might find. When they arrived at the Xantari flagship, they were met by Commander Zara. Her face was troubled as she greeted them. "We've noticed the same readings. Our engineers are working on it, but we're not sure what's causing the issue." Admiral Grant nodded. "We'll help. Let's get to the engine room and see if we can find the problem." The team made their way to the engine room, where they found the Xantari engineers already hard at work. The energy readings were fluctuating wildly, and the power core showed signs of instability. Chief Engineer Max Keller examined the core. "This doesn't look right. There's something interfering with the core's functions. It's not just a malfunction, it looks like deliberate sabotage." The Xantari engineers exchanged worried glances. Commander Zara's expression darkened. "We need to find out who is behind this. If the core fails, it could cripple the entire fleet." The team began a thorough investigation, checking every component and system. Dr. Patel, using his expertise, identified the sabotage device that Krell had planted. "This is a sophisticated piece of equipment," Patel said. "It's designed to cause a critical failure. We need to deactivate it before it does any more damage." As they worked to disable the device, Krell was watching from a hidden location. He was nervous but determined to see his plan succeed. He had hoped to cause enough disruption to force the Xantari to abandon the alliance. But Krell's plan began to unravel as the Eclipse team made progress. Admiral Grant and her crew were making quick work of the sabotage. With Patel's knowledge and Keller's skills, they managed to neutralize the device and stabilize the power core. Commander Zara approached Admiral Grant, her face a mix of relief and frustration. "Thank you for your help. We wouldn't have caught this in time without you. I need to find out who did this. We can't afford to have traitors among us." Admiral Grant nodded. "We'll assist in the investigation. Trust is crucial to this alliance, and we need to root out any threats to our partnership." With the immediate threat neutralized, the team continued their work, ensuring that the power core was fully repaired. The alliance between the UEF and the Xantari was still young, and the sabotage had shown how fragile it could be. As the investigation unfolded, Krell's actions were soon uncovered. The Xantari discovered evidence linking him to the sabotage, and he was swiftly taken into custody. His motives were revealed. He had wanted to sabotage the alliance to protect the Xantari's independence. Commander Zara confronted Krell. "You've endangered not only our fleet, but also our chance for peace. Why did you do it?" Krell's eyes were cold and defiant. "I believe that the Xantari should remain independent. The humans are not to be trusted." Zara shook her head. "Your actions were a betrayal. We must work together, not sabotage each other. The alliance is too important for petty grievances." With Krell's plot exposed, the alliance between the UEF and the Xantari was tested but not broken. The incident served as a stark reminder of the challenges they faced, but it also strengthened their resolve to work together. Admiral Grant and Commander Zara continued their discussions, focusing on how to ensure the security and success of their partnership. The sabotage had been a setback, but it also brought the Allies closer, reinforcing their commitment to mutual trust and cooperation. The Eclipse and the Xantari fleet resumed their joint missions, their bond strengthened by the crisis they had overcome. The road ahead was uncertain, but the Alliance was now more determined than ever to face the challenges of the galaxy together. As the ships continued their journey through the stars, both crews knew that their partnership would be tested again. But with their trust and cooperation firmly established, they were ready to face whatever lay ahead. The battle for survival, the alliance between the United Earth Federation and the Xantari was starting to solidify, but new threats emerged that would test their unity. The Eclipse and the Xantari fleet were on a joint mission to explore a newly discovered star system when they encountered unexpected danger. Admiral Lisa Grant stood on the bridge of the Eclipse looking at the view screen. The stars outside were a breathtaking sight, but the tranquility was shattered by an urgent alert. "Admiral, we're detecting multiple ships approaching from the edge of the system," Lieutenant Mia Torres announced, her voice tense. "They're not showing up on any of our friendly databases." Dr. Arjun Patel quickly examined the readings. "These ships don't match any known designs. They could be from a hostile species or a rogue faction." Commander Zara, standing beside Admiral Grant, frowned. "We've had reports of pirates in this sector. It might be them. We should prepare for a possible attack." Admiral Grant nodded. "Alert the crew and prepare for defensive maneuvers. We need to be ready for anything." As the enemy ships drew closer, the crew of the Eclipse and the Xantari fleet sprang into action. The energy shields were raised and weapons systems were activated. The tension on the bridge was palpable as everyone braced for impact. The enemy ships, sleek and menacing, appeared on the view screen. They were heavily armed and seemed to outnumber the Eclipse and the Xantari fleet. The hostile ships began to close in, their intent clear. "Admiral, they're preparing to engage," Lieutenant Torres warned. "We need to act fast." Admiral Grant gave the order. "Engage the enemy! All hands to battle stations." The Eclipse and the Xantari ships fired their weapons, energy blasts lighting up the darkness of space. The enemy ships returned fire, their weapons striking the shields of the Eclipse. The ship rocked from the impact, but the shields held firm. Chief Engineer Max Keller worked frantically in the engine room. "We've taken some damage, but the shields are holding. We need to keep the power flowing and make sure we don't lose our defensive capabilities." On the bridge, Commander Zara coordinated the Xantari fleet's response. "Our ships are engaged with the enemy. We need to cover each other and coordinate our attacks." The battle raged on, with the Eclipse and the Xantari fleet working together seamlessly. The Allied forces faced wave after wave of enemy attacks. Despite their efforts, the enemy's numbers and firepower were overwhelming. Dr. Patel was analyzing the enemy ship's patterns, trying to find a way to turn the tide. "They're using a coordinated attack strategy. If we can disrupt their formation, we might gain the upper hand." Admiral Grant agreed. "Lieutenant Torres, can you find a way to identify their command ship? If we take that out, it might break their coordination." Torres worked quickly, her fingers flying over the controls. "I'm tracking their communications. There's a ship at the center of their formation that appears to be in charge. I'll target it." The Eclipse adjusted its weapons, focusing on the command ship. The Xantari fleet provided cover, drawing the enemy's fire away. The command ship was heavily defended, but the Allied forces worked together, breaking through its defenses. With a final, concentrated blast, the Eclipse's weapons struck the command ship. It exploded in a fiery display, sending debris floating through space. The enemy fleet's coordination faltered, and the remaining ships began to retreat. "Enemy ships are falling back," Torres reported, her voice filled with relief. "They're retreating from the area." Admiral Grant exhaled deeply. "Well done, everyone. We've managed to push them back, but we need to assess the damage and ensure there are no more threats." The crew of the Eclipse and the Xantari worked together to repair the damage. The battle had taken a toll on both ships, but the combined efforts of the Allied forces had prevented a disaster. Commander Zara approached Admiral Grant. "Thank you for your support. We couldn't have held them off without your help." Admiral Grant nodded. "It was a team effort. We've proven that our alliance is strong, even in the face of danger. Let's make sure we're prepared for any future threats." Dr. Patel and his team continued to analyze the wreckage of the command ship, searching for clues about the attackers. "These ships are equipped with advanced technology," Patel said. "We'll need to study them further to understand their capabilities and prevent future attacks." As the Eclipse and the Xantari fleet made their way back to safer space, the crew took time to reflect on the battle. The conflict had tested their resolve, but it had also strengthened their bond.